What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of On the Bump. And on the bump this week, we have Braeden Ferrington. Braeden, thank you for coming on to the channel and talking to everyone.
Yeah, no, it's excited to be here. And most of your audience probably has zero idea who I am. So this will be fun to introduce who I am to your audience.
Hey, you never know. Absolutely. I'm willing to bet there's some people who know who you are outside of, obviously just me. So,
Ah, like in the glove world, maybe, but the minor baseball people down in Texas have zero clue who this kid is here.
well, Braeden, why don't you tell us all a little bit about yourself for anyone who
Yeah,
doesn't know a lot about you?
yeah. So my name's Braden. I'm not gonna say how old I am, but I am old. I don't look it, but here we are. Uh, so I'm from Canada. I play baseball. 10-year vet in the IBL, which long term would be the Intercounty Baseball League. It's been going on since I think 1919. So it's old, but it's a it's an established league, that's for sure.
Now that you're not playing baseball anymore, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm still playing, in the classic, as the American term would be, the Sunday League. I'd be one of those grinders now, which is I'm really ecstatic for that. But I'm coaching U17 girls softball at the elite level. They're a great group. They're new to this whole going from minor softball into the whole college in the United States atmosphere. So um, I'm fortunate enough to be a part of this and kind of guide them into that world, and I'm excited for it.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Now that you've stepped away from playing the game, now you're coaching other people to play the game better. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like, and people always ask, like, why softball? There's no real right or wrong answer to it. But I feel as if I were to go into the minor baseball world, there it was so crowded. That whole, especially in Canada, it's such a small niche market. There's so many, no offense to the dads out there, but the Joe Blow dad out there trying to coach their son, and when someone has a resume, they're probably not going to listen because, they know their kid better than I do. So this kind of keeps me in a way of still engaging in the game, but through a different lens. Um, and the girls are absolutely amazing. I will say the season hasn't even started yet, and I've learned one thing with the girls versus the guys is that, say, like, we're doing practice, they make an error in the field, right? Like, ball goes off their glove, whatever. In a baseball world, every kid that I've seen would have an absolute freak out, a meltdown. Coach yells at kid shuts down, he's done for practice. It's just the classic added nonsense, I feel. But with softball girls, like, it happens, like, they boot a ball, they start laughing and giggling. And I'm just like, okay, like, this is different. And then, like, when you kind of scale it back, you're like, okay, cool. Like, it's still a game at the end of the day. Like, for them, they're enjoying the game. They're versus the guys, which I don't understand this whole pressure being put on the guys to be perfect, because big leaguers are not perfect. They'll be the first ones to tell you they will never be perfect, even though these people think they are. So I don't know. I enjoy coaching these girls, and we'll see where it takes them. That's for sure.
That's awesome. You mentioned how you've seen kind of this different trend in how like softball girls or the whole softball atmosphere. It's like, oh yeah, it's funny. There's not a lot of pressure, but for guys, there is. Do you think that that pressure is because there's such a heightened awareness around playing pro ball, or obviously like baseball is traditionally you know, a guy sport. And so, do you think that maybe that has something to do with it?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just obviously people see nowadays the dollars attached to baseball, right? They see these multi-million dollar contracts. They want to have that. But what the people don't understand and see is that only a small few people get that in this game. Even some big leaguers aren't going to ever come close to that. But nothing against parents. They're putting all this pressure on this kid to become the next Juan Soto. Is little Timmy gonna be Juan Soto? Zero chance. Like everything has to go right for that kid. Like as a parent, I feel like you should be telling your kid, hey, if you mess up, you tried. At least you tried. Try it again. And like build that, the positive reinforcement with the kid, and maybe he actually might start to enjoy the game rather than hate the game. And then he continues to do that. By 15, he'll probably quit, go hang out at the mall, and the rest is history, as people say. So, uh,
Right.
keeping the game as long as you can. And I'm 31 years old. As at the start, I said I wouldn't tell you how old I am, but I'm 31 years old. I enjoyed the game. I had fun. Like, I played 10 years in the league. Like, yeah, like I'm that 10-year entitled vet. Give me that gold card, and I can do whatever I want.
Well, Braden, that actually is perfect because let's kind of shift gears into the whole topic around this episode today. Baseball in Canada. Now, I myself do not know a whole lot about baseball in Canada outside of obviously what I know about you and the IBL and the Toronto Blue Jays. But outside of those, two factions, and I know a little bit about, what Mizuno's doing in Canada, but outside of that, I am really kind of an ignorant person when it comes to what baseball's actually like in, knee-deep snow and, you're playing with your ski poles and things like, no, I'm just kidding. But
Boom.
you get what I mean. So can you tell us and tell us the viewers like what is the vibe kind of around baseball in Canada, with it being so close to the United States? Like kind of what is that like for most people?
Yeah. Okay, so for Canada, it's not a lot of people know this. Okay, this might stir the pot with your say like the like an older guy that has like loves baseball, right? And like nothing against American culture, but it's like we created the game, whatever, right? But it's gonna stir the pot with those people. In London, Ontario, the world's oldest baseball grounds is here. That was my home stadium. It is what it is. There is a questionable historic thing um, in this area. It was the first recorded ever baseball game to happen. Um, you can look it up. I'm not going to say it's true or false, but it is out there. But the world's oldest baseball grounds is in Canada, so it's cool to have that. Um, and the American pastime. But yeah, for the whole landscape of baseball in Canada, we are indoors probably 6 months of the year. It's not fun. It gets old after a while, but there's so much potential in this country. It just hasn't been fully tapped yet. Where obviously you get like your small amount of big leaguers, right? That like the Josh Nailers, Noah Naylor too. Like the Naylor brothers are stupid good. But again, like then you have on the flip side of it, you have an American born player, but both his parents are Canadian and Freddie Freeman. And he elects to represent Canada in the World Baseball Classic, that to represent his past mother. So which is cool, because we as a country we don't really have those big name stars yet. There's a lot in the pipeline coming up through the minor leagues. Um, I would watch out for those guys. But in the whole landscape of minor baseball, it's just we can't play enough games up here. And like there's so much talent. It's just how do we as a baseball culture in Canada grab those kids that have something and produce them into something. Um, it's a tough thing because of Mother Nature isn't the finest in our country, so it's just a matter of give and take, and if they want to put in the work on the indoor circuit, then great. If they don't, then they'll get passed by another kid that wants to. So that's just the adage of it. But there's a lot of good leagues here. Like for example, like the professional route, we always had the Jays, right? And then your next tier down would be essentially the American Association, which is more dominated by US. But Winnipeg, out of Manitoba, the Goldeyes, they have a great team there. And then if you want to go across Ontario into Quebec, the Frontier League. You got the Quebec Capitale, the Trois Rivières team. You technically have Ottawa out of Ontario, but they're on the fringe of Ontario, Quebec, so we'll let them be. There'll be a lot of hate there because if people I know watch this, play for that team. Um, and then you have the interesting IBL league, which I don't know if the league knows what it is yet. Is it a professional league? Is it a very elite summer league? Is it a semi-pro league? The league doesn't really know yet because the talent pool is wide range. You have your top end Division One guys, um, and then you have dudes that are on the MLB Hall of Fame ballot this year. Fernando Rodney, like it just doesn't make sense. It's for me, like I'm a 10-year vet in the league, and it's just I'm seeing it through not even through a fan's perspective, but just like a person that understands the league and wants to see it succeed. I'm like, how does this make sense? You have dudes that had zero pro experience, and yet you have Fernando Rodney, who I think is like 19th all time on the MLB saves list. Like, pardon? Like that kid's gonna get dominated. Yeah, Fernando might not throw 100 anymore, but his changeup is gonna make the kid look like an idiot. Like it doesn't go together. But it's super cool. The IBL, it's a fascinating league. There's a couple teams in there that I'm not gonna say are modeling their game after a very popular social media team. Not gonna, it's trademarked, so I don't know if we're allowed to say the team, but it's yellow. Guys do backflips when they make catches in the outfield.
They
Uh,
bring on like random celebrities and just give them
yeah.
jerseys.
Yeah. So there's a team in the league, the Welland Jackfish. They do that kind of thing, and especially not on the field, but in the crowd. They are very much that atmosphere. Which, as a visiting player, like I loved it because it was electric. Like you had people yelling at you, and you had no idea what was going on, but some people thrive in it. Like I enjoyed playing there. Some other younger guys, like I think they felt intimidated because they didn't know how to respond to it. Um, but yeah, that they were awesome. Like, but yeah, the league is great. Canada baseball, great. It's just a matter of tapping into the talent to take them to the next level.
So with that being said, do a lot of people in Canada do a lot of like younger guys, you know, do they try and go to school in America to get opportunities to continue to play baseball? Or like for instance, there's a lot of people that come from overseas that try to go to, American colleges or different, avenues like that or different high schools. They try to come to America to play. Is that is that a trend that you're starting to see in Canada? Or is that something a lot of people do, or
Yeah.
do they
Yeah.
just grind it out?
No, so a lot of guys, especially at the elite level, a lot of it, the goal is to get to the United States. It doesn't matter what level, JUCO, Division One, probably JUCO. I'm a JUCO product, love JUCO. But yeah, I'd say the easiest route would be going the JUCO way, and then kind of trying to establish yourself within the American culture. You know, it's not for everybody. Like I've seen a lot of stories from kids that think they're ready to go. They move away from home for the first time and they just don't understand how to balance school, baseball, the outside third, like the after hours of life. You gotta, hang out with friends, you gotta meet people. Like some kids just can't do that. And they ultimately, I've had a coach once tell me you can only pick two: school, baseball, friends. Pick two. And some kids, when they go down, pick the wrong two, and it affects them long term. So, like for example, like when you go to say if you go to a JUCO, right? It's you got to meet your minimum of a 2.0 GPA. Some Canadians that are fringe excellers in the classroom um, pick the wrong two. They do the friends in baseball. But guess what? You need to have the school part to have the other two. And
Well, especially to have the baseball, you need to have the school.
yeah, and by the time like Christmas break comes and the grades come out, especially as an international student, there's different rules. If
Mm,
you aren't meeting a 2.0, the school has the option to say thank you, but no thank you, and they will send you back home. And I've seen it as a kid that I've seen flunk out of school first semester. I would feel embarrassed to go back home and people ask you, oh, like what happened? And then they got to make up the story about, oh, the coach that I didn't get along, it just wasn't the right fit. No, you just sucked. You focus on the wrong things,
yeah, yeah.
and it happens every year. Like I've seen it a bunch of times, and like I don't know, like when I'm at the facility working out or doing something, right, and I see one of those kids, right, and like they kind of give me the story, and I'm just like, okay, what really happened? Like I know what happened. I want you to physically tell me so then we can work on those going forward. Because like it sucks, their pride gets hurt when they come home, and it's it's not always fun, but it has to happen.
Right. You kind of need that wake up call when, obviously you've made the wrong choices and now you're kind of down and got to figure
Yeah.
out, all right, it's kind of set you back a little bit. And I mean, it happens. I mean, it's part of life. But unfortunately, if there's a place you want to get to, like we talk about like the pros or America or something, it kind of sets you back a little bit.
Oh gosh, yeah. Like it's just I don't know if you want to succeed, you gotta do the stuff that you don't like. That's the way I've seen it. Like even for myself, like I wasn't educatedly gifted in the classroom.
Same.
Like like to be straight up honest, like I grinded like a 2.4, 2.5, like just enough to play, and I did it. Had a great college year that year, and now I can literally do what I'm doing now. It's fun. It was worth it. I learned a lot on the way. So
Yeah. It's interesting too, because like, there's a lot of guys like you talked about like JUCO. JUCO is such an affordable route for so many guys to get an opportunity to crack into the college space and the college world, especially in America. I've run into, it's funny because I have a guy who's from Canada on my baseball team at my current university. So he's a dog. He's awesome. Um, but it is really cool to see that, JUCO gives all these guys opportunities. And I think that's one of the beauties of, those smaller colleges. It's a grind because there's so many guys on the roster that want to transfer to D1s or they want to get to bigger and better places. So it kind of creates an environment where it's like you either, move on with the pack or you kind of take a step back or, your career's kind of over to an extent.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really good. I think in the JUCO space. And is there obviously, yeah, there's colleges in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So what is that kind of atmosphere? Is it the same as America College or is it a little different? Or do you know?
So yeah, so I was actually fortunate enough to do both. I've played in both. I've done the Canadian college route and the United States college route. Um, the Canada college baseball, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but it has potential. Okay, it has a lot of potential. If any of these college coaches in Canada watch this, your number one recruiting is not the school. Okay, it is not. It is not the baseball program. It is not the school. You go to the parents who are paying for school. You say, look at the currency exchange. Done. That's it. Done deal. That's how you keep kids in Canada to play college baseball. The dollar's bad here versus the American dollar. It's for example, off the top of my head, like $1 American is going to cost a Canadian $1.45, I believe, off the top of my head. When it comes to international fees, you're paying, I'd say, on average, it's probably double the whatever in-state tuition would be, just because you're Canadian. So if a Canadian college coach were to ever want to keep kids back home, you just straight up tell them, hey, you want to throw 13 grand to go play JUCO down the drain, or do you want to say spend 3 grand and stay home? I don't know. Some people go for it. I'm not the one to tell people what to do with their money, but I think it's a no brainer. The Canadian baseball scene is not as talented as what it used to be. I will tell you that. Back when I played, it was a lot of guys that came from the United States, came home, and needed to do something with school to upgrade going into their career, and they just need something to do. So they went back, played school ball. It was sick. It was like the Wild West. There was no real rules. But now it feels like the kids that are playing, these kids are going to hate this if they see this. It's kind of the ones that didn't get that opportunity to go to the United States. I feel
Yeah.
again that's just an outsider's perspective, um, basing it off of a lot of education. um, but I feel like as if any of the colleges in Canada or universities in Canada really want to excel in their program,
Hmm.
recruit based on the currency exchange. Um, you're probably going to keep a lot of talent home.
So in Canada, along with that, do you see a lot of like really good indoor facilities? Is that something that a lot of colleges or a lot of high schools or even organizations kind of have as a sticking point? Like, you know, obviously there's snow and everything, you have all the weather conditions. So do a lot of places have like a really good indoor facility?
Yeah, so I know in London here we have two legit indoor facilities, Centerfield Sports and another one called the Batter's Box. Um, both of those have their own club teams attached to it, but they're both A plus programs. They're both A plus facilities. I know in other communities around, like say you drive in like a half hour outside of London, like there's another good one, and then and then say drive another half hour after that. There's a couple more good ones that are popping up. So there's good facilities here. It's just a matter of people using them to the fullest, and I feel like it would be time well spent for those kids.
It's interesting. Like I feel like here in America we do have some good indoor facilities, but obviously, dude, we don't have snow on the ground every other day, so it's easier to get outside. But I will say I go to a college up in the Northeast,
Mhm.
and I'm primarily a little bit in the middle of nowhere, and there's not really a lot of dedicated indoor baseball facilities because the weather doesn't, I mean, the weather's only bad for 2 or 3 months out of the year, so there's really not a big need for it. But it is kind of concerning though when, it rolls around to be December, January, and you're just kind of like, all right, well, we have two options. We can go outside and freeze when it's like, I mean, 19 degrees, and you're like, oh crap, this sucks to throw a baseball in. Or you could go and find like a janky gym or something to throw for a little bit
Yeah.
in, which is I mean, we take the latter. So, you
Oh yeah.
know, I mean, it's you got to get your work in somehow. But I feel like that's a good thing. I mean, it really tests like, how bad you want it per se, and also it's good to kind of find your own solutions because you need problem solving skills in life. But it definitely is like I'd say it is a little different. I mean, it's nice that there's baseball fields almost everywhere here, so you're bound to find somewhere to use a facility to train and to work out. So that's obviously a plus. And the more south you go, the better the weather is.
Yeah.
So
Like I will say the coolest thing right now regarding baseball in Canada is, especially in the province of Ontario, we have really, I don't know, we have finally accepted that we need turf fields. Crazy thought. Like it's a crazy thing. You know, Americans, that's a norm for you guys, right? Like it's just like, oh, we're playing on a turf field. Oh, yay. In Canada, that is, especially in our area here, it has never been a thing until I'm gonna say probably 2 years ago, which blows my mind. Like it extends a season for a few more months. You can start early, you can end later, and like you're telling me it's what 2025 now that we only have a handful of them in the province of Ontario, which is I guess what the second largest province in Canada. Like that's crazy to me. Like, but if you want to grow the game, do this because it's going to extend playing abilities for everybody. So it's cool to see.
yeah, that's like you said. I mean, it's interesting because turf fields are pretty big here in the US, and I feel like it could be a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, if you're in the Northeast, it's probably a good thing because again,
Oh yeah,
snow,
yeah,
water, all it's great. But if you're in the South where it's really hot,
yeah. You're just baking on there.
it's miserable. Like I'll bring my molded cleats and try and play on the turf field, and they're freaking burnt to the ends.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the game, and I'm like, well, now I gotta go get a new pair of cleats. So it's
Hey, you know what? It's the circle of baseball life. The industry at the time. They're like, let's make a rubberized field for rubber cleats. Probably not going to go well in the heat. So what does the kid have to do? Buy more stuff to keep playing. All right, keeps everybody love.
they probably have like a low key like a
Oh
business
god,
sale going on. They keep
yeah,
giving people business.
yeah. It's the dark side of the industry that nobody wants to see. Awesome.
Thank you, Braden, for coming on the episode today and talking about baseball in Canada. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the people or anyone watching this episode?
It was first and foremost, it was awesome to be here. Educating about what we do up in Canada. Most people don't know. That's cool. That's fine. It's how we like it sometimes. But I will say the one last thing I want to express, going back to the dollar value and exchange rate. I'm not going to say there's easy ways to get gear now, but when you do the exchange rate, you're probably saving 30% off the top when you buy gear in Canada. Just saying. Mind blown. We know.
Well, as someone who collects baseball gloves, that is a very key piece of information for me.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Braden, for coming on the episode. This has been a blast. I hope we can maybe put some more content together in the future. So I really, again, appreciate you coming on the channel.
Yeah, it was awesome. Fun to be here.
Thank you.